So first, we got a request from one of our subscribers, and we like to always try to please our subscribers. So we're going to start off with a special TMR and the Math Wizard shout out to Aiden out there in subscriber land. So hope it's all well with you, Aiden. Today we're finally finishing our three-step process where we're going to be able to add or subtract rational expressions. The strategy will be as it was previous days. Start off looking at the bottoms and find a common denominator. If you see adding or subtracting down there, that involves factoring. Then we'll have to change the tops like we did yesterday. 2 days ago we picked common denominators. Yesterday we changed the tops. Today we'll finish the process and add or subtract them. So back to 7th grade kind of days. 3 and 4 both go into 12, so we want to pick a common denominator of 12. Then we look at what did we multiply the bottom by? 4. And we multiply the top by the same thing, so that's an 8. Keeping the plus around. For this, we multiply the bottom instead by 3. So we multiply the top by 3. And if you like writing those separately, feel free to write them separately. I'm just saving myself a little bit of write time by putting the tops already together, because that's what's going to happen later anyway. And we're going to get 11/12. Another thing we'll have happen today that hasn't been happening lately is you might at the end need to reduce. Reducing is something we did at 8.1, so that's going to come up occasionally. A problem like this, we catch a break. We already have a common denominator of 3x. So once the bottom's the same, you don't change it. You just look to add the tops together, and that'll add up to be a 6. And now here's an example of what I just got done saying, which is this one's going to reduce. 6 can divide by 3 twice, and the x is just going to stay on the bottom. This one, we have a common denominator, 10x minus 8. Just keep that the same. On top, these are unlike terms. So for 5x to try to subtract 4, the best you can do is 5x minus 4. This time when we think about reducing, if it's adding or subtracting present, you can't do any kind of reducing, canceling, almost anything unless you can try to factor first. The bottom, we have a GCF of 2 that gets 5x minus 4, so that's out and the new thing is in with factoring. On top, we have a match invisibly in parentheses that you can make visible. Little cancel there. Best answer for that's a half. For a question like this, we have 3 fractions, but the process remains the same. 2, 3, 4 all go into 12. For the x's, we pick the most of what we see, which is a 2 was the most. And then whatever new things happened on the bottom, we'll have to multiply the top. So for this first one, we multiplied by 6, and you gained a new x. So on top, 3 multiplies by 6 and gains an x. In the middle, 3 multiplied by 4, but the x's are good. So on the top, we multiply by 4, and we're good. In the third group, we multiply by 3 and have 2 new x's. So 1 multiplies by 3 and gets 2 new x's. And then I would call it quits. I'd think about factoring for a second, but there's no GCF for the top. There's nothing that's going to happen to create any kind of match for the bottom, so I just get out of there. For this next one, it might help if I make the invisible parentheses visible. And when we pick a common denominator, we have to take each item that we can see. There's 2 different factors on the bottom for our common denominator. For this top, we didn't previously have the x plus 2. So the top is going to need an x plus 2 because the bottom also needed that. To make this better in the long run, I'm going to want to distribute. And you know what? I'm just going to distribute right here where I have space. So I'm distributing that to get 2x plus 4. This fraction doesn't have the x minus 3. So I'll do an x minus 3 on the top. And in the long term, distributing to get 3x minus 9 would be in my best interest. For this to subtract this, remember that subtracting has to change signs of things. So this is 2x, subtracting 3x, that is a negative x, because the 3 got its sign changed. The minus 9 is going to become a plus 9. The 4 with what's going to become a plus 9 is a 13. There could be invisible parentheses made visible there, but there's no factoring available, there's no canceling that available. For the next one, to pick a common denominator, I need to factor a GCF of 2. For this one, I need to factor a GCF of 5. When I pick a common denominator, I need a 10. 2 and 5 go into 10 with an x plus 2. And then we have to change the tops. If 2 is becoming 10, I multiply 5. That's 15 then. For 5 to be 10, I multiply 2. That's 14 then. Adding those, I'm going to come up with a 29. And 29 and 10 can't do any reducing. For this one, I'd have to factor 5 minus x and 5 plus x. That is the difference of squares. When I go to do the answer, I'd have to take either the 5 minus x or an x minus 5. I'm choosing to take a 5 minus x, but it doesn't really matter. I need a 5 plus x as well. I chose these because since this bottom is already the right thing, I don't even have to change the 4. But for this, I have 2 changes to make. I need this reversed, and if I'm going to reverse the order of a subtract, that's going to change a sign, and I have to remember that that's there. I also didn't previously have a 5 plus x, so the top needs a 5 plus x. Whatever's getting multiplied on the bottom also joins the top. Little distribute here, 15 plus 3x. If I distribute that, it is that. And then we just look to do this subtract, doing some sign changes. 4 minus 15 is negative 11. And the negative attaches to that to get a minus 3x. And that's all we can really do with that because there's no factoring available, there's no matches, there's no canceling available. This one's similar. It's a difference of squares, r minus 3 and r plus 3 to cash that out. The common denominator needs both of those. If this makes you feel better, put it in parentheses. This is already good for the first bottom. We don't have to change anything on that first fraction. The second fraction is short an r minus 3 that we desire. So we need to put that on the bottom. And we need to then do the always, whatever you do to the bottom in math, you'll do the same thing to the top. Little distribute here while we're at it, 5r squared minus 15r. And again, these subtractions have to do some sign switches. So there's a negative going to attach to the 5r squared. When the negative attaches to this, that's a plus 15 here now. Plus 15 with the 3, that is 18r. The only GCF, you can take out an r if you want to do that, fine, but that won't lead you down a road that could cancel. So I'm fine if you just leave that the way it is. This one, similar, we need to factor, but this is going to be our 2 groups, D and D, minus, plus, signs are different when that's a minus. This takes the bigger number, which is 3 compared to 2, because that subtracts to make 1. This has invisible parentheses we can make visible. So on the bottom, we can see a D minus 3. We can see a D plus 2. We'll take those both. The second fraction this time is good, so just leave the top alone. But take notice, so that minus is going to do a little switching as always. This first group didn't have the D plus 2, so the top needs a D plus 2. And as we have been all class, look to distribute 5D plus 10. When the negative attaches to the D, 5D minus another D is a 4D. The 10 would be plus 4 because this minus is attacking that. So a 10 plus a 4 is 14. You could factor off a 2 from the top, but since it leaves you stuck with 7s and there's no other 7s, there's no need to do that. You can't cancel, so it doesn't really matter if you factor. And then our last one is a nice big one because there's 3 fractions. So I would make this visible. I'd make those invisible parentheses visible. I'm going to factor this, and it'll probably make the same 2 things we already had, because that's how the authors usually write these books. It is different signs. It is plus 4. It is minus 2. It is that stuff we were having. So the common denominator needs only the 2 items that we saw. We saw it once here, once there, once here, once there. The only way we'd ever get a power on these, and it never happened on the board today, is if there were 2 from the same factoring. Like if this had d plus 2 and d plus 2 again, the denominator would need the d plus 2 to be squared. But that's really pretty rare. This first fraction, the bottom's already good, so don't change the top. The second fraction, we need the d minus 2 that was short. And take notice of this. This needs the d plus 4. This didn't have the d plus 4, so we need that. And then we need to do a little bit of distributing. This is d squared plus 4d. This is 4d minus 8. And then we just need to go through and get like terms. So the only d squared is this one, and it was adding. In the d family, 4d is adding. This 4d is subtracting, so that's going to vanish. This minus attaches to the 4d, and that can bump off the other add 4d. So the only d's we're left with is the 7d. And then for numbers, the minus 8 would get attacked by the minus that I put the star by. So the minus makes that an add 8. There's an add 4. So adding 4 and adding 8, that is adding 12. And we get for once one that is going to factor and cancel. We should always think about factor, but it always was a strikeout for us. This time the top is going to go d plus 4, d plus 3. The bottom was a d plus 4 that matched, and a d minus 2. So our best answer is d plus 3 over d minus 2. If you left those with individual invisible parentheses, you could, and that's fine, but you don't have to. Where we're going the next few days, there's an 8-5 homework that you would be doing for next class, which this is in 2020. This is a lesson geared for a Friday. So the page 335 homework would be what you're doing for over the weekend, like it would be due Monday if we were still in school and not struggling with virus nationwide issues. There's a sheet in your packet that would then be due on Tuesday. And then I'll be back on camera in a second. Would have helped if I grabbed this before I started. Am I back in focus again?
You're good.
Okay, so I'm looking at the title page, which is available on the website to get. But for Monday, no, I'm sorry, retreading. This is actually Monday, a video intended for Monday's class. So you'd be doing the 335 homework Monday night into Tuesday, like you would be doing it for Tuesday class if we were still having class. The sheet I just talked about is a practice quiz from Wednesday, would be due on Wednesday from 8-1 to 8-5. And then on Thursday, we'd be looking to try to take a quiz in some form. I don't know that I'd grade that the way I normally grade a quiz or what we'll exactly do with that. I'm contemplating that. But I think the action of preparing and taking a quiz often helps seal in some information. So in some way or other on Thursday next week, we'd be looking to take a quiz that's like the Wednesday sheet, but more communication on that when we get a little closer. But that's what we have in the works. Hope you're all healthy and well, and I hope to see you soon.